why do you think it is that in a community where people are trained to solve problems, adapt, and make things work, some people flourish outside the military and some flourish less, and some, we already talked about, really, go down the dark traps? What do you think is the quality that allows people to be really adaptable? In particular, because most of us live in a landscape where we have to deal with people who are not us, like people that are not good at what we're good at. And sometimes that's an asset, sometimes it's not. You seem to be particularly good at like understanding the human animal and working with that. So again, this is a broad question. We're going very broadband here, and we'll get narrower again in a little bit, but I'd love your thoughts on like, why is it, how is it, what determines whether or not somebody thrives in novel environments?
I have to start off by saying that I wrote a note as you were talking. I just put SEAL, and then I put the not equals sign, because you can't say that a SEAL equals anything.
Right. Excellent point.
I mean, there's guys that have been in the SEAL teams that are murderers. Like there's
like real life murderers.
Like murders, like rapists and murderers that went through SEAL training, rapists, murderers, and they're in prison for the rest of their lives. Like that's a thing. There's people that have been in the SEAL teams that, got kicked out of the SEAL teams for drugs. And I mean, you name it. And we've got that. And we've got guys that are just lazy. And we've got guys that and
physicians, you could say this about physicians. There have been sociopathic, serial killer physicians, and then there are ones that are in third world countries right now that would not accept $1 billion to stop serving people at the level of the basic medicine that they deserve.
So there's there's the SEALs that get out and just volunteer to go help in the worst places in the world. So you've got a full spectrum of people. So to say a SEAL equals success in any domain, the only domain you can say that they're successful is they made it through basic SEAL training, because guys make it through basic SEAL training and they're not good SEALs. Right? That happens, so you get guys that make it through basic SEAL training and they make it through SEAL qualification training and they make it to a SEAL team and they get kicked out of the SEAL teams because they're not good SEALs. They weren't meant to do that job. That happens. So all they've proven by making it through basic SEAL training is they can kind of suck it up for a while. And there's also guys that make it through basic SEAL training because they learned how to maneuver through the system. They learned what to do and what the minimum requirements were and how they could skate through this. There's guys like that. It's not a huge number, but they're absolutely there.
We see them in science. People that go to a lab, figure out who the director of the lab is at the level of psychology. And this is actually one of the more dangerous aspects of science. It actually negatively impacts all of society. I'll just say it. And any scientist will know what I'm talking about. They find the big famous labs, they figure out who that leader of the lab is, and they get that person the data they want. They might not make the data up, but they will certainly discard the data that don't fit, right? Which is one way of making data up by exclusion, right? It's not literally like painting pictures of cells that aren't there or something, but that happens a lot. And those people often go far. They rarely go all the way because pretty soon their reputation, expands to the point where people go like, yeah, no one can repeat that result like that one. But these people sit in very high positions, not at Stanford, right? I will say, I don't know any of my colleagues at Stanford that meet those criteria, but you see them and you see what they're doing, and they're basically solving a social engineering thing. They just happen to be doing it in science. Now, why anyone would do that in science, I don't know, because you don't get rich in science. You certainly don't get famous. But for whatever reason, they figured it out that that's where they're going to do it. And I'm sure you see it in law firms. I'm sure you see it in every single domain of life. Yeah.
Now, you pointed out that there's some people that make it to the Ivy League schools and they graduate from an Ivy League school and then they don't do well. And to me, that's very similar to someone that might make it to the SEAL teams, do well in the SEAL teams, and then they get out and they don't do well. It's probably because of what I talked about earlier when I went to Navy boot camp. Here's what you got to do. If you do it well, you'll be rewarded. Well, if you're in high school and your mom and dad say, hey, if you do good in high school, you're going to get into this Ivy League school, and you get into that Ivy League school. And here's what you need to do in high school. You need to get good grades. You need to be part of the Glee Club. You need to, whatever the things are that you got to do, you got to speak a different language. You got to go volunteer in Guatemala in the summertime. You got to do these things, and then you'll get into the good college. Once you get into good college, you got to get this degree. Once you get that degree. So they've had a path laid out for them of boxes to check, and they go and check the boxes. And then when they get done, no one has put any more boxes out in front of them, so they don't know what to do. And that can certainly happen from someone in the SEAL teams or someone in the military, that what they've been, hey, this is your mission. This is what you got to do. Here's what you need to do it well. Check the box, check the box, check the box, check the box. And it's time to retire. And there's no one putting a box in front of them to check. And so unless someone, some guys get out of the SEAL teams and they go into a big corporate structure and they kick ass because there's someone in the corporate world saying, hey, here's what you got to do next year. And they do great. And that's super good for them. And they actually really like it. I was talking to a guy the other day. He's like full on in a corporation. He's doing a great job. He likes what he's doing. It's awesome. So, but I think you get some guys that they don't really have the open mind to see where opportunities are. And they, one thing that's nice about the SEAL teams is there's you get a lot of freedom of maneuver, right? You can really do a lot of stuff that you kind of want to do. And so when they look at the corporate world, they don't see that and they think, I'm not going to do that. But then they're not quite sure how to take the next step. So I think that's why you might see some guys that aren't super successful because they don't really know what to do and they don't really have a mind that's open to look for opportunities. And also you got some guys that success for them is they're going to hang out with their family and they're going to, get in good shape and they're going to run some triathlons or compete in whatever they're going to do. They're going to go do it. And that's what they're looking to do, mm-hmm. which is also awesome. Go take time, go enjoy your family, man. You gave enough to your country. Go hang out with your kids. That's success as far as I'm concerned too.